The second part of the question is if Imam Ali alayhi salam had been accepted by the people as the designated successor of the Holy Prophet as declared in Ghadeer, what would have been the result? Now, it's a very interesting question. It's like, what if this had happened? What if that had happened? I mean, people can opine, can make opinions as to what might have happened. We know what happened was there was a lot of expansion that took place. Was that the only way Islam was to be spread? Was that the only way Islam could have been spread? Fair enough. These are various matters of opinion. It's not something that one can say, I think this is what would have happened, because I would know. I would not have any basis to say this is the way it would happen. It will be speculation. It's like looking at a speculative history. So all one can say is there are different ways in which Islam would have spread, and Imam Ali alayhi salam would have ensured that the people understood fully the Prophet, the Holy Prophet's religion, Islam, and implemented it themselves fully before it goes out and spreads to the world at large.
Sure.
So that is another approach that could have been there. I'm not saying this is my answer. It's a speculative answer, but it is like, one speculative answer is as good as another speculative answer, and therefore it's not very useful to speculate. All one can say is one knows what happened, and what would have happened, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows alone.
And of course, sometimes, especially Western historians on Islam tend to use that to try and denigrate Islam, i.e. this concept of Islam spreading by the sword, which at certain times of history, maybe some of the ones that the sister was mentioning, isn't something that we can deny. And of course, another point with regards to that as well, the most populous country in the world, Muslim country in the world, is, I believe, Indonesia. And we know for a fact that there wasn't any jihad that went there. No, it was because, as you were saying, it was a different methodology of people interacting with Muslim merchants.
Yes, I think that's right. One has to analyze history a bit closely and do research into this, and to really go into what was the actual the drivers, the reasons that drove the expansion and the conquering of lands, other than, to move out. The Holy Prophet sent out, did tabligh in a certain way. He sent his emissaries with the message of Islam. And there is a certain method that was being used by the Holy Prophet. The Holy Prophet did not use conquest of lands as a methodology to spread Islam. Islam, as it turned out, spread because of this. Because what actually happened was when the lands were conquered, in some cases they were being conquered and taken away from other tyrants. So those people accepted to be under Islam, and they liked what they saw in Islam, and therefore they adopted Islam. But that is not to say that that is necessarily the most ideal method of spreading Islam.
Okay, thank you very much. We have another caller waiting to speak to you, and once again I welcome you to the show. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, brother. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, fine, thank you. I recognise the voice. I won't ask your name just in case I get it.
My name is Ali, calling from London. My salams to Al-Hajj as well.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Thank you for a very interesting discussion, and Eid Mubarak to both of you, and the viewers as well. My question is something I've been thinking about some time. The Ism Azam is supposed to be the great name of Allah, which is hidden from ordinary Muslims. But if you invoke that name, it's supposed to be almost sort of like a foolproof thing. It can move mountains and split seas and so forth. And this name is hidden in some of our du'as. Now, my understanding is that the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, and also the Imams, that they were aware of this name. And my question is, if they were aware of this name, did they use it themselves directly? And why, if it is a foolproof name, why would they not use it during one of the many trials and tribulations which they faced, simply to, get around the situation, as it were? In other words, what's the point of having this name available to you if you don't invoke it? And did they invoke it? when they were going through those things.
Thank you very much, Brother Ali, calling from, I think he said London. Yes.
Brother Ali, thank you very much. A very, very important question. I think it's a fundamental question. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had intended to use force and coercion in order to make people accept guidance, then He did not even need the prophets or imams, alayhimus salam. He could have directly used coercion. He could have said, kun, and it would have been fayakun. So clearly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose the method of persuasion. And there is some beauty in voluntary acceptance of guidance. There is some beauty in it. If you tell your child and let your child be free, whether to accept your guidance or not, and then you tell your child, look, I'm trying to explain to you that this is not so good and that is better, and I would like you to think about it and accept it yourself. And you are guiding him to make decisions, his own decisions, in a manner which is most useful to him, because you won't be with him all the time. If the child makes a decision that accepts your guidance, won't that make you happier than you telling the child, I am commanding you to do this and you must do this? So it's that kind of thing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the way in which He made creation, and He made us ashraful makhluqat, He gave us reason, He gave us intellect, and He gave us freedom. This freedom, free will, is so important for the system of jaza and azab, for reward and punishment. It is very important because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised us great and beautiful things as our rewards in Jannah. But those things are there on the basis that we voluntarily accept the guidance and implement our guidance voluntarily, and in face of trials and tribulations, in face of difficulties. If we were being forced to use the guidance, or if we were robotic, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us robotic and took away free will from us, then there would have been no special fazila, there would have been no special quality of obedience. Obedience which is voluntary, which is made consciously, which is made as a deliberate decision, seeing yourself, you do sajda voluntarily, in love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That has the highest value, rather than someone just taking you by your back and making you do sajda by force, which is virtually a physical example of what would have happened otherwise if one would have been forced by Allah to do these things. The Imams and the Holy Prophet knew that when they prayed, they had the ability, certainly they had Ismi Azam, and they had the ability to ask for it, to ask for something, to find a way out of the difficulties. But you find that the Holy Prophet, in the 13 years that he spent in Mecca, during the time when he was stoned, he was being thrown rubbish at, he was being persecuted, he was being taunted, he was being mimicked, he was being laughed at, he was being ridiculed. Did he use his weapon of Ismi Azam? No, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent him as Rahmatul lil Alameen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us all to accept the guidance that the Holy Prophet brought voluntarily as a result of a conscious decision on our part.
Okay, thank you very much. We go now to the phone lines. I believe we have one of our dear friends and one of our workers here and contributors to Ahlul Bayt TV, Al-Hajj Arif Chandu. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam, and Eid Mubarak to both of you.
Eid Mubarak.
Eid Mubarak, inshallah.
I had a comment to make actually on what the question that the lady asked in the beginning. She asked a question that we often hear, is that if the appointment of our first holy Imam was so important, why didn't the Holy Prophet do it in the precincts of the Holy Kaaba? Why was it done at Ghadeer? And I wanted to make 2 points here. Firstly, that we believe that this appointment was in fact directed, it was wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He revealed the verses, that if you do not reveal what has been told to you as if you did not convey the message of Islam, that came from Jibreel at the point when the Holy Prophet was at that location and he was asked to reveal the statement of the appointment of Ali at that time. It had nothing to do with the Prophet choosing himself, because we don't believe that he did anything other than what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked him to do. So the fact that he happened to be in Ghadeer, and that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wished. And the second point that we often hear is, why doesn't it get made around the holy or around the precincts of the Kaaba? Well, if we know when we go for the Hajj, actually Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if he wanted everybody to be around the holy Kaaba the whole time, he wouldn't have sent people to Arafat, and then he wouldn't have sent them to Muzdalifah and to Mina, where these are very important parts of the Hajj ceremony. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends them away from the Kaaba. And they have a distinct duties to perform in Arafah, Mina, and Muzdalifah. Whereas if Kaaba was always meant to be, the holy Kaaba was always meant to be the central focal point, he wouldn't have sent the people outside the holy precincts of the Kaaba and then bring them back in. So I think these 2 points should be borne in mind. Firstly, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose where to reveal the message. It wasn't the Prophet's choosing whether to do it in the holy Kaaba or not. And secondly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses different things for different places. It's not always that he wants his worship or his ibadah to be done around the holy Kaaba. As we know, he has sent people to Arafah, Muzdalifah, and Mina. So I just wanted to make those 2 points, because we often hear this question about why didn't the appointment take place near the holy Kaaba.
Thank you very, very much. Al-Hajj Arif Chandu, thank you.
I think Al-Hajj Arif Chandu has made very, very important points indeed, and thank you very much for your contribution. Clearly, everything the Holy Prophet did was, in response to Allah's command. And وَمَا يَنْتِكُ عَنِ الْحَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. He doesn't even speak except that it is a wahi that is given to him. So clearly, when Allah decided that this is the spot at which it should take place, then he did it. So it is a reaffirmation that he did exactly in the direct consequence of the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I would also like to add one further point in extension to what Arif has said, that if Allah had intended for everyone to be together, then there is one place, one time during Hajj where everyone has to be in one place, and that's Arafat. So in the plains of Arafat, everyone has to be there at that particular moment in time. So clearly, it could have been that. But Allah chose in His own mercy, in His own wisdom, in His own omniscient knowledge, that this is the place where it should be done. And that it should be done in Ghadeer, when people have already completed all the rites of Hajj, and they are totally complete with reaffirmation of the faith and have got rebirth, and they are reborn. They are as if sinless. They have now removed all the impurities and sins. They have come back here. They are pure at that pure state in Ghadeer. They are to receive this message, and it is a challenge for them whether they will retain this message and follow it up, or they will revert to old ways.
Okay, thank you very much, Al-Hajj. We need to go to a break now. Maybe, as I said, we do want to focus at least a few minutes on his character so that people can understand who this personality is. But there's one point that the sister made that maybe you can respond to when we come back, and that was the first and second caliphs were there, and al-Mu'mineen was also there as well. Therefore, she says, and after the death, we don't hear about this narration. They didn't mention it, and whoever became the caliph became the caliph. Therefore, how does that fit in with this so-called event that took place? Maybe you could just spend a couple of minutes responding to that when we come back after the break.
Then the Sheikh of Al-Azhar, Sheikh Mahmoud Shaltut, gave a fatwa, verdict, in the middle of the 20th century, that the Jafari school of thought, Shia Islam, is one of the recognized Islamic sects. And any Muslim, as he can be, according to him, Hanafi or Shafi'i or Hanbali or Maliki, he can be also Shia Muslim. Because